With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets sent into us by Derek Priano, who writes, "Hey, John. So Dolittle, which is, of course, the new Robert Downey Jr. film, is sitting at a solid 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. And one headline was, well, it's better than Cats. Ouch. The movie cost around $175 million to make. Will it even get close to breaking even?" All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Derek. And I've got to go look that up now. I got to go see what is Dolittle sitting at right now in Rotten Tomatoes. And as of right now, the new movie Dolittle is sitting at, it's gone up. It's gone up. It's now sitting at 19%. It's sitting at 19%.
Are there going to be lots of headlines that say "Don't Little" or "Did Little"? Or
yeah, they did little, or they should.
The variety headline is going to be for the box office on Monday. It did little.
It should have done more. Listen, everybody knows I'm a fan of Robert Downey Jr. This film is horrible. It is absolutely horrible. Now, I say that with a little bit of a heavy heart because, Aaron Cummings went with me to go see this. And we talked after the movie. And one of the things that I said to her when we came out, I said, that movie sucked. We both agreed it was terrible. But I said, it sucks that it sucked because you can tell watching this movie that, man, seriously, every frame of this movie screams best of intentions. They were trying to make, and I tip my hat to them for this, they were trying to make a whimsical, magical, family adventure kind of film. And you could tell down to the very DNA of this film, they were really trying hard to deliver to the audience a magical experience at the movies and a fun time at the movies. And you could tell that was their goal. You could tell that's what they were going for. But I can be aiming for the basket from half court. It doesn't mean the ball's going to go in the net. And with Dolittle, I'm sorry, the ball did not go in the net. This was a, dare I say, almost painful movie to watch. It was almost painful to watch. This is just an example, I think, Rob, we've talked about this before, an example, I think, of, a script can look great on the page, and then once you actually start shooting the damn thing and you start editing it together, and it's not till then that you realize that, yeah, the concept seemed great, but it doesn't really work. It's hard to quantify what there's good about it. I didn't like Robert Downey Jr. in it. I mean, every line of his dialogue was talked in basically whisper. And one of the things that Aaron said to me when we walked out, and I immediately yelled, yes, was like, is it just me or was every line of dialogue that Robert Downey Jr. had in this movie totally ADR'd? And I'm like, yeah, it totally was. And you could totally tell. That just on its own became distracting. And I'm sorry, but for 2020 standards, whereas if we jump back in time 6 years ago, we would have looked at this movie from a visual effects point of view and gone, wow, not today. There was some real lapses in the visual effects to me. But again, the basic story of it, like if you sat down and read a one-page synopsis of it, story seems solid. You got a solid underlying, theme there. But it's just the execution to me, Rob. The execution just to me did not work. And, I cannot help but wonder, Rob, looking at this, if we're not going to see the same thing happen that we saw after Robert Downey Jr. did The Judge and that tanked. Robert Downey Jr., remember when The Judge was coming out, it looked like Robert Downey Jr. was done with the MCU. It looked like he was done. His contract was up. It was very public. It didn't look like they were going to sign. He did The Judge. Suddenly it tanked. And all of a sudden everybody was like, and then all of a sudden a new deal has been reached between Marvel Studios and Robert Downey Jr. And I'm telling you what, I'm not going to be surprised at all. I don't mean to sound skeptical, but I am not going to be surprised at all if within the next few weeks we don't start hearing rumors and buzzing of Robert Downey Jr. and Kevin Feige having lunch at the Four Seasons or something and working out a new deal for him to come back, because this thing's a stinker. But you know what? Here's the thing about whether or not it'll break even. It looks fun. I think you're going to get a lot of family out there opening weekend. I don't think this movie breaks even, but I don't think it's going to be a Titanic level, like a sinker. I don't think it's going to flop totally because I think it's got Robert Downey Jr., it's animated animals, all that kind of stuff. So I believe there's going to be a family audience for this regardless. So I don't think it's going to break even, but I don't think it's going to be a monstrous flop either. Rob, you're hearing all the feedback from this thing. How do you think, from everything you're just observing, how do you think Dolittle's going to perform?
Well, I've read a lot of articles about the troubled production of this movie. And what I find really interesting is the director, Stephen Gaghan, is a screenwriter of some renown. He wrote Syriana, which I really liked. He wrote Soderbergh's adaptation of Traffic. He wrote The Rules of Engagement. But he's never, ever worked on a film that has massive amounts of visual effects. And to me, this is probably, at least from what I've read and judging by his past credits, this is somebody who I think was way out of his depth in terms of dealing with, first of all, when you're dealing with half the cast of CGI animals or these kinds of visual effects. Look, George Lucas had enough of a problem dealing with actors when he made The Phantom Menace. So when you're dealing with an actor like Robert Downey Jr., who I just think the wrong director was put in charge of this project. And this coming from somebody who really liked Gaghan's work as a writer. And then as a director, I mean, he directed Abandon and Syriana and some TV movies and Gold. But none of these were effects-driven movies. And the fact that he got this film to direct is, I understand he wrote the screenplay, but man, you really need to get the right director with the right material in order to make a movie like this work. Because if you're not, you don't know your effects or you don't know animation. I mean, I worked on Chronicles of Narnia as a documentarian, and director Andrew Adamson, he made the Shrek movies. So he was aware of how to use animation and create creatures and all of that. So he had an understanding, but Stephen Gaghan has none of that background.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. Question is, guys, have any of you had the opportunity to go out and see Dolittle? How did you feel about it? Maybe the good intentions of the film really won you over, and maybe you saw the positives more than the negatives than I did. I went in hoping for a really good time. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to end up being the worst film of 2020 or anything like that. It's not that bad, but it's not, to me, it really wasn't good. But what do you guys think about this whole thing? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.